All right. At any rate, Six of Fire on the bottom of the deck here. This is a card of victory and success, public recognition. Um, I don't know if he does here. I guess I can't see these cards either, truth to be told. No, this card a lot of times is represented the person coming back. They're victorious in a war or a pursuit, a symbolic war of a sort, right? And they have a laurel crown on, and the laurel wreath symbolizes victory. They would wear these things so that you could kind of tell coming into the village whether or not they had been successful or not in whatever it was they were doing, their raid or whatever. So anyway, this is kind of that little one card summary to kind of give us a heads up and some clarification. So good news, good things to come. Let's keep going and see. Um, so covering you right now, we have the Hermit card, which is about spending time in meditation, spiritual teaching, and self-discovery. The hermit is one who kind of withdraws from the world in order to read and to learn and to think and to ponder. This is kind of that person who's trying to reflect, maybe to recharge his or her battery before being able to go out and make sense of it. But this is really wisdom. Right. This is wisdom and kind of lighting one's way from within, understanding that we already know everything we need to do. Right. In having a conversation with one of my spiritual teachers, she was saying that, you can ask for support and guidance from angels or from spirit guides and things like that. But you are enough, she says. That's my new mantra. Right. You are enough. You have everything that you already know why you're here. Like, your soul's purpose. You know what your next steps are. You know whom you can trust, whom not. You know so much information. You kind of know what the major points are, and you can check in with yourself in that. You don't necessarily need to work with spirit guides and so on. I think it's very enlightening to do that. And certainly you can outreach them too in your hermit phase. But the idea is going within and asking yourself what your truths are, right? What you already know to be the case, and how your best steps are in achieving what it is that would make you feel fulfilled or content. Nobody else can answer that for you, really. Maybe angels can, because they're about helping us too in identifying our life's journey, our life's path. But certainly our earthly friends, a lot of times they really can't. They may be able to ask us some really good questions to help us identify that. I'm a therapist. One of the things I don't do is tell a person what they should do. I'm going to use air quotes here. Should do, because it's really about helping the person figure out or illuminate for themselves what their best options are. That's the idea. What's their best option? And if they have barriers to taking steps in that direction, how can we remove some of those, right? If your therapist is saying, well, you should do this and do this and do that, they're not practicing psychotherapy. All right, I'll tell you that. As a general rule, okay, there may be techniques that they're working with you on. Okay. Four of air. This is an influence coming into play for you. This is about taking that rest or vacation, allowing more time before making a decision, meditation. See, this ties right in here with this. You're in a place of personal growth, and it really is about checking in with yourself and seeing what your best options are. I'm kind of getting that feeling right now that you're in a place where you need to, you're asking yourself some serious life choices. You're asking yourself what you need to do to make a big decision. These are major arcana cards. Those are cards that indicate spiritual growth. This is one of the minor arcana, which is kind of like your day-to-day goings on. But crossed together, this is telling me that there's something big that's weighing on your mind. Something heavy. You'll notice too, I don't think I've ever noticed this. This looks like the moon is closer to the hermit than the earth is. He's far removed from the earthly pursuits, the food and a roof kind of pursuits. He's more in tune with the mystical, the unknown, the unseen, the illusions, and opening those up and seeing what those are. And this is you, because there's something that you're thinking about doing that you feel very uncomfortable about, but it would be a personal growth experience for you to do this. Again, I'm not saying if you should or not. Every person's situation will be different. This is a general reading. But this is why you need more time to make that decision and figure out what that is. Be careful too. You think outside the box, because sometimes, we come up with this thing like, I use the example with Sagittarius. Like sometimes people think, well, if I'm with somebody for a long enough period of time, that we have to live together. Well, no, not necessarily. And if you've ever lived together, one person can still move out and you can still stay involved in a monogamous exclusive relationship if that's what you want to do. Married couples can buy a house across the street from each other, because one's a slob and one's a neatnik. It's sometimes we don't want to deal with the petty squabbles of the day to day. That's just an example, right? I'm not feeling like somebody's got to cut it, with somebody else per se. But something's going on where there's a big life step or a life change that you're thinking about. And I think it has to do with your people, your tribe, your clan, however you want to word that. Let's keep going here. On your mind, what may come to pass if you keep putting energy into this, right? 5 of air. Let's see. I'll just read from the card. Unwise choice. Learn what you can from a situation and reviewing everyone's motives. For sure, reviewing people's motives. There may be something that you're thinking to do that is not necessarily a wise decision. And let's look at the card beneath it. We have another 5. 5s are kind of about struggle, internal or external or both. We don't see here, I don't see the other cards. No, I'm not seeing the 5 of Wands, but these two, 5 of Water, this is beneath you. This is what is the case right now, which is why you're going into this reflection phase. Some of you are not satisfied with what's going on, and you're seeing the spilt water. You're not seeing the 2 upright cups right now. For some of you, it could be that you put good money before bad. In a banking situation, it could be that you invested in a person, in a relationship or something. It's not going well for you. There may be some kind of a decision that you're thinking to make that may not be the wisest decision for you. Then before you, we have this card here, which is the 4 of Fire. Now, this is kind of an 11-11 card. You've got these 2 here and those 2 there. Remember that 11-11 is symbolic of that. It's sort of like, I want to say the pipeline between divine source and source energy, wisdom, knowledge, all of that can download into you. I'm mixing my metaphors now, but you see what I mean, right? It's about the information and energy exchange that can happen between people who are tapped in to divine source energy. It's about receiving those downloads. This is about happy home life. There's something that some of you are contemplating doing, a decision, because what you want is to have a happy home life situation. Maybe it has to do with reevaluating your situation, right? Maybe it has to do with somebody else or leaving a situation for somebody new. Now, this card in your recent past that puts you in this hermit stage, we've got the life experience here. This is about a revelation that leads to change. Time to spread your wings. But there's that period that we have here. If you read this from right to left, I know that's counterintuitive to Westerners, most languages in the West. But you move from the life experience to the hermit to the 4 of Fire. So you may be thinking of an unwise decision, but you may not either, because this is about contentment, peace, and abundance up ahead, happy home life, or the successful completion of a project. But maybe you need to go in for a time and determine what that is. If there's been some kind of a conflict in your home or some kind of, differing values or whatever the case is for that. Or it could be something pertaining to your job. Being able to move on. Don't make it an unwise step, right? Do it in a pace. It may be slower than you want it to do. But I'm reminded again, too, of the 6 of Fire, which is about success and victory, public recognition and awards. So it seems like you're going to be making a decision about something that's very important. And the outcome's going to be good. But give yourself enough time to think about that so you can determine what that is. Sometimes it's about sitting down with somebody at home and having that conversation. Or sitting down with your boss at work and having that conversation and saying, this is not working for me. Here's what I need to do, and seeing if they're open to feedback and open to change. Maybe you can come up with a game plan. Maybe it's a chore chart at home, or, I'm just being silly with that maybe, but maybe not. Sometimes it's the little petty squabbles that make us feel like, screw this, I'm out of here. You never can tell. But taking the time to determine what that is for you. This, though, this life experience card, this is about a significant event. This can represent the tower, right? Where there's a shakeup from outside. For some of you, maybe it's just been that reality. Something's coming in, some information's come in, and it's opened you up to a whole new thought process. Now, this card represents you. This is unity. You're stuck because part of you is saying, if this is about a marriage relationship, you might be thinking, but when I said I do forever, I do forever. For others of you, it could be that as you're growing, as you're having that life experience, you're realizing, something, I need to seek out like-minded, like-souled individuals. I need to find my people. Do I need to be done here, or do I need to move on? Sometimes the happiest home life is because you know when it's time to say no. I'm done. Again, there's a way to do. Sometimes marriage and couples counseling can be about two people getting together to discuss how to go through the breakup without making their kids nuts, or how to go through it with the minimal amount of harm. Not because you don't want to break up, but sometimes you know that you have to. It can be that conflict. Again, this is not necessarily for everybody. For some of you, that this may be a work-related situation. Maybe it's time to move on to a new job, to find people more like-minded, like-spirited. I've had wonderful coworkers every single place that I've ever worked, but some of them had better cultures than others. Better cultures. Some of them were flipping a toxic to work in. Others were supportive and mutually beneficial for the clients, the staff, the senior staff, or management alike. Very, very different. We may not need to be in that kind of a toxic environment. But again, that doesn't mean that we have to just up on the spot quit in a huff. We can find that new job before we move on to the next. Or, we can make it a safe transition through. Page of Fire. This is about a new endeavor, originality, ingenuity. This is about taking your creativity and your passion and applying it into something new. And this is your environment. This is how other people see you. And this is how you behave in your environment. Because this is what it's about. For some of you, if this is a relationship, some of you may be thinking, oh crap, I met somebody new. They're shaking my world up. I want a happy home life. There's a passion here. Page of Fire is about passionate information coming in, or a passionate situation coming in, something that's new that involves passion. If you've been feeling like you've been, putting good money before bad in a stale relationship, maybe you met somebody and it lit a fire, I wanted to say under your ass, but maybe it was a blast from your kundalini, or your root chakra, I should say. You never can tell. At least from where I sit, there's too many of you for me to guess. But your hopes and fears, the world, you want to be done with whatever this is. You want to finish. You want to be done. And if this is what you're hoping for, it's that much easier to manifest it. Remember, we've got this coming in here. World is completion of a cycle and rebirth into something brand new. The next card following the World is the Fool card, which is taking that risk, taking that leap of faith. But as we were cautioned in the Four of Air, you want to be sure that you get the facts, you get the information. Do this in the right way. There's a right way and a wrong way, typically. But there doesn't have to be a no way, right? Now, your final outcome, 8 of Water. I listened to a reader who says, 8 of Cups, that ass. And she's talking about when you leave somebody because you're done dealing with crumbs. She calls it crumbs. You're done dealing with crumbs and you're over it, right? You want somebody that's going to offer you something substantial and something real. Because you are experiencing some passion here and you want to experience unity. You want spiritual mentors, like-minded friends. You want to be in a relationship with somebody who's of a kindred spirit to yours. The word kindred is related to kin, like family. You want to find your soul family group. And they may not look like your biological relatives. They may not be your biological relatives. Some of them may be. But some of them are going to be that random stranger, or I should say that stranger whose genes are a random variation from yours. Similar traits, dissimilar traits, most likely a combination of those. Because we have soul families, spirit families on this earth. This desire to move on. But remember, I got to bump back to this card here. At the bottom, we saw success and victory. We saw 4 of fire, contentment, peace, abundance, happy home life, successful completion of that project. And moving on. You're moving on into this energy here. I really feel like for a lot of you, you know that that's what you need to do. That's why you're hoping for and fearing completion that we see here represented in the World card. That's what that's about. Something lit a fire under your ass. You're ready to move on, move into your spirit group, your clan, so to speak. That's lowercase c-l-a-n. You're ready to move on from all of that, right? And here you got your happy home life. These 4 points here, that reminds me of the 4 cornerstones of a building, the 4 bedposts on a bed. Speaking of the fire suit, right? It's edifying, literally, and metaphorically edifying, right? It's something that you build a structure on. And that's what you want to do. And you will have victory in that. But be careful. Spend as much time as you need in your hermit phase. Because in your hermit phase, that's where you're going to be understanding how to transition yourself successfully and with a minimum amount of optional pain. You know, humans, we have to go through emotional and physical pain, spiritual struggles. That's who we are as human beings. We have to go through that. However, we have optional pain and suffering. Like when we're mean to somebody or nasty just because we choose not to control our words, our mouth, our behavior, whatever, that's optional pain we're inflicting on somebody else. And that's how we choose to make the world a less pleasant place than it need to be. You know, it's one thing when it's just that kind of random suffering like a hurricane or a natural disaster. It's another thing when you become the natural disaster in somebody else's life, when they don't, I don't want to say when they don't deserve it, but when we could choose another more peaceable way. We can agree to disagree on things. We can do let's meet with the marriage counselor to learn how to successfully dissolve this marriage without going through unnecessary additional pain and struggling, because it's already going to be hard. Or again, if this is a workplace situation, you know, taking it to that boss and saying, boss, this is what's happening and I don't like it. Can we do anything about it here? If not, okay, let's move on. Let me find a new job someplace. Retreat. Oh, this is awesome. Doesn't that tie in with your 4 of air and your hermit card, like big time? Retreat. Spend some time alone in quiet thought. Clear your mind and focus on your truth and priorities. Are you pushing yourself too hard, beloved child of God? The angels remind us that rest is a natural cycle in every living thing. Think of the mighty oak tree that grows in spurts and then rests. It draws its nourishment from deep within the earth and takes its time before growing upward again. Like the oak tree, it's important for you to nourish yourself with spiritual and emotional food. While you are resting, take time to reflect on your heart's true feelings and desires. Your angels speak to you through your heart, and when you listen to and honor your feelings, you walk hand in hand with God and the angels. You will know that it is true divine guidance and not just your imagination or wishful thinking if it speaks of your desire to make a difference in the world. Beautiful. What a great note to end it on.